Good evening and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis.
I'm Matt.
And I can't believe it's the end of season 8 already. But here we are, and tonight we're just going to talk about stuff. Loads of random stuff. We've got loads of bits and pieces written down. If we talk about it, then hopefully you enjoy it. But where can everyone find us, Matt?
They can find us everywhere. And you need to find us everywhere because, it's the end of the season, so we can have a little bit of a break, so we're worn out. So the only place you're going to be able to find us is on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of those lovely places that you've spoken with us before. And don't forget, all the episodes are there. So in the meantime, while you're waiting for season 9 to come out, why don't you go back to the first episode and listen to them all again, and then see how much we progressed since then.
Indeed.
But before we get started, let's have a listen to this.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
Here we are, the final episode of the series. It has gone so fast, this series.
Yes.
It's been mad. And it's weird because in the previous series where we've had guests on and things like that, it seems like, and this is no offense to any of the guests because they've been amazing, but it's felt like the series has gone on for longer. But I'm guessing we also had a few breaks here and there as well. We might have had a week off in between certain episodes, but it's flown by. We're slowly approaching Christmas. We might even do a Christmas special. Who knows? We'll see how we get on.
I was thinking exactly that. A Christmas special is definitely on the cards. Not indeed, on Christmas Day, no, because that's too much dedication, I think.
I'd quite like a break from the family. But anyway,
nice. We'll do a 24-hour marathon on Christmas Day. Just get away from the family. It'd be good.
That'd be amazing. That'd be the whole day.
The whole day.
Thank you already to those of you that are in the chat. We saw the chat already coming in with people prior to us even going live. So we've got Joshua Scar on here. We've got Dawn of Comics. Shane's here. Triple G. Pete, that is. He's here. And if anyone else joins us, feel free, drop us a message on there, get involved in the chat. We'll give you a shout out as well during the show.
And say hello. Yeah.
And exactly. Just say hello. Well, as we've mentioned, it is the final episode of season 8. We've got a long list of things that we want to talk about. So it might not actually probably be long, in-depth conversations like we had last week, which the show with Mark that we've done last week was hilarious. Watching that back was probably one of my favourite episodes we've done in a long time. But we start this episode on some quite sad news. For those of you that know me and Matt, and that people that are on the chat and that are watching us now, they know that me and Matt have worked together for the past 10 years. Sadly, this coming Friday, is the last day as I am moving on to ventures new. However, as sad as that is for me and Matt and our colleagues, the podcast will only get stronger because we won't talk to each other that much anymore.
Because I'm going to replace James at work, therefore by default have a new host on This Week in Metropolis, and I'm just sort of springing out on James now. First he's heard of it, but I'm sure he'll take it really well.
Well, I feel like we should create some sort of banner for it. Just you're fired. But yeah, it's been very emotional. And not just because I'm very tired today. Which, again, before we get started on this is a topic I wanted to bring up today, and we've not got any banner or anything. But this weekend, which I'll reference a little bit in one of the stories that we'll talk about, I actually went down to visit Mark and some of our other friends down in Essex. We went to the cinema and we went out for a few drinks afterwards. Well, I say a few, it was quite a lot. And it's amazing, isn't it? When you're out with your mates and, the music's going and, you're chatting away, you're having a laugh. you get lost in the moment and drink copious amounts of alcohol. Well, if you're an alcohol drinker, that is. But why? Why do we do it? The next day, I felt like dying. It was awful, the feeling I had the next day. Why do we do it, Matt?
I think the problem isn't the consumption of alcohol. The problem is you're getting old, and that's all it is. 20 years ago, you would have been fine. But, now we are long in the tooth. That's it.
That is mad, actually. You saying that, I remember like mornings where I'd been out on a Thursday night down at, our local pub, karaoke nights, out till God knows what hour. And then I'd be in work, probably still drunk, to be fair.
Or going all night and then going into work, things like that.
Yeah.
Crazy days,
Crazy days as he drinks a bit more beer.
You can see that James regretted his decisions in the weekend and learned by every lesson there was.
Never.
In reality, he's not actually stopped drinking since. That's what's happened.
Yeah. Mark is here, and as well as saying evening, gentlemen, he's just laughing because he knows. And in fact, I'll have to find that picture that Mark took of me. I'll happily share it. There's a picture. Have I shown you already, Matt? No. Oh, brilliant. This will be breaking news to everyone. I'll happily after this. Well, I'm not in bed. I'm on his sofa, and it was in the morning. We'd both woken up, and he took a picture of me while I was essentially, dying. But yeah, so I'll have to share that. But anyway,
but you did something else when you were there.
Well, yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. Are you on about the film that I saw?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, but the one that I saw the day before, just to keep them in chronological order of when these films came out. Obviously, last week was Disney Plus Day on what day was it?
Friday.
I
think it was,
yeah,
it?
Disney Plus Day. So I finally got to see Shang-Chi, or as he's actually referred to when he left his home country and went to America, he's known as Sean. So hence the Shang-Chi that I've popped up there. I've got to tell you about, I really wanted to see this film when it was in the cinema. We discussed going to see it, but we just couldn't get the dates to work. But for this next kind of phase or saga of Marvel movies, they're definitely trying to incorporate some really different kind of styles of films. Obviously, you've got the kind of martial arts element to this one, which is kind of a bit kind of Crouching Tiger, that sort of style. I'd compare it to. But then, and this was the only bit that, as I was watching it, I thought, I'm not sure whether Matt would like this because it goes a little bit mythical.
Yeah.
And I mean, wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, that part of it, but the story still, it had to go there, if that makes sense.
See, I don't mind like mythical in the sense of like, if it's in, I'm assuming in this, it's some sort of Chinese mythology or something like that as a background. Where I have a problem is generally wizards and hobbits and that sort of stuff. That's the fantasy, I would say. I struggle
Lord of the
with
Rings.
occasionally. Lord of the Rings generally really struggle with that. But other stuff is fine as long as it's in the in the context of the film as such. Yeah. Good. I really look forward to seeing it. I really do. I've not got around to it yet, but really
and another big plus point, and I said it to you the other day, was that I don't know whether they're going to be doing this with all the films or even with the ones that are existing on there now, or if it's just the ones moving forward. But they've now added enhanced IMAX, so it actually fills the screen rather than cropping it. So it's widescreen on your TV, which I always found frustrating when you've, essentially purchased a bigger TV or whatever to watch these amazing films, and then it kind of doesn't utilize all the space.
See, I'm not really bothered with that at all. I think once I start watching the film, I just get too engrossed watching the film when it's there. But I don't think I've ever really considered it. And it's not until someone says to me, there's a letterbox on it, and I'll think, oh yeah, there is. But I'll phase out
But
of
when
it
we
a
go, or when you go to the cinema, would you rather watch something in IMAX?
It depends what it is. I'll always go and watch Star Wars in IMAX because it's just the size of the screen for me more than anything. It's just that grand sort of event, definitely. But saying that, I've got a local cinema here in Cromer, sort of 10 minutes down the road from me. And there, we always joke that one of their smaller screens, they probably fit. It's a really old-fashioned cinema, so it's a nice-looking cinema. But they fitted 5 or 6 screens in the thing. And I would say some of the smaller screens are not much bigger than your living room. And yeah, they're tiny. So you're sitting there sort of just with this screen in front of you. It's probably about 45 inches or whatever. And yeah.
Oh, God.
So
And you pay
tiny.
for that? People go in and pay, or is that free,
No,
that
they
one?
pay. This side of Norfolk, that's like high-tech stuff. So, you.
Interesting. Well, we'll come on to IMAX a little bit more in a sec. But Shane has actually said from Dawn of Comics, never seen a movie in IMAX.
I'd be interested to know why that was, whether it was sort of availability of IMAX locally or just not being sold on it, I guess.
I'd love it if Shane come back and was just, I hate it.
Maybe. Yeah. I think, well, before I moved to Norwich, I hadn't. I think I could safely say, because there weren't any cinemas locally that did it. But we've got one in Norwich that does. So, so from that alone, it's been available. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. At least it gives you the option, or gives us the option up here. But yeah, going back to the film, yeah, I liked the direction they're going, because it felt like it could have been separate from Marvel, to be completely honest with you. It didn't necessarily, I mean, I'd never kind of read any of the comics or anything like that. So there are obviously comic book fans who will know of the character.
Yeah.
In fact, if Pete from Triple G is watching, I'm sure he recently got some. I watched one of his videos where he's been kind of buying some of the first appearances and things like that, which is what he tends to go for. But yeah, it's very unique in the whole Marvel universe, and that's what I quite liked about it. The ending, obviously, I won't give any spoilers in case there's people that haven't watched it. But you've got the post-credit scenes afterwards and things like that. So there's a couple of bits in there where there's references to other characters, and I think there's actually an appearance of another one in there, maybe. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I've seen so many things, and now I'm, as I said to you before, very tired, so my memory's a little bit flaky. But yeah, there were some nice touches to that as well. The characters were really good. I don't think. Oh yeah, so one of the people in it, I think, was probably the only person that I know. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but is her name Aquafana, something like that? Her name is, and she was the voice of Sisu in Raya and the Last Dragon. And instantly I was like, why do I know your voice? And I only watched that film with my son the other day. So her character in it, Katie, and I remember I was talking to someone else about this over the weekend. She was kind of like the comedy in it, to some extent. My only critique of the film would be that there was elements to her character that were quite rushed,
Right.
Which didn't quite fit in. She's not a superhero or anything like that in it. She's a side character who then all of a sudden plays quite a key part in it in the end. But again, that would be my only negative, I would say. But yeah, what we got questions coming up here. Sorry, how many post-credit scenes are there? Shane said. Yeah, I think it is 2. You
said to me there was 2, definitely.
Yeah. There was wasn't there one? I think I said to you there was one straight after, and then one right at the end. Yeah, so I mean, I would highly recommend it, and that led on really nice because then, as I said, I went down to Essex and then out into London. Let's talk about, excuse me, the IMAX part of it to start with. We went to Waterloo to see Eternals, and the IMAX is the biggest in the UK. And I didn't quite realise until the screen, like all of a sudden, it kind of starts expanding even further. That more so that way actually.
Yeah.
And it was, mate, it was, the sound in there was brilliant. I'd never been to the cinema before. I know Mark goes there quite frequently, but to see a film like Eternals, let's get out of the banner. I'm quite pleased with this one. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely, 100% recommend it. Again, there's always going to be, and this is what we were saying last week when Mark was on. There's always going to be people that will pick fault with things, and yet that. Even for me, I'm watching it, and there's certain elements to it that I can go, could they have done that better? And the film was still like 2.5 hours long, I think.
Wow.
In total, it's quite a long one, but you've got so many characters in it.
I guess it has to be long because they have to fit everyone in.
Exactly, but actually, me and Mark were talking about it afterwards, and we were saying like, there's a lot of kind of elements to it that you then question afterwards, like who actually is the bad guy in this film. And I don't really want to spoil it for people.
Where's the story?
Yeah. What's the point? I mean, I'm now basically saying everything. Well, it wasn't actually that good. No, I thought the characters were brilliant in it. There's one thing I never realised was that they've tried to make it a more what's the word? You'll probably say it again. It's my mind at the moment, but you've got a character in there who's deaf, for example.
Yeah. More inclusive and more diverse.
Yeah, more inclusive, exactly. Yeah. The diversity in it is incredible. One of the characters is gay in it, which I think they're now referring to him as the first gay superhero that there's been in the MCU movies side.
That's interesting. I wonder if the again, comic book fans out there, whether that would be the case. I remember Shane saying recently about seeing on Instagram about their transitioning some traditional characters over to be gay, but there have been strong characters in the past that have been gay. So it's certainly a hot topic at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I think we might have even discussed it before with the whole Loki thing when it was revealed that he was bisexual in the series. I don't know if you got that far.
I watched the whole of it.
Oh, good.
But again, I found that it was a bit of an odd thing.
It seemed a bit of a throwaway comment, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't add anything to the plot whatsoever, and you didn't really need it, did you?
Yeah. So my question to Mark was actually, even with the Eternals, like the character in that, which is Fastos, you find out later down the line that he's gay and he's with a partner and they've got a son together. And then I said to Mark, do you think that his character was gay? I don't know if anyone knows who's watching, but do you think his character was gay in the comic books? But also, alternatively, do you think Marvel, and the same with the Loki thing, do you think they're just doing it as a tick box exercise?
Don't know.
What are your thoughts?
But I guess the problem with everything like that, I think a lot of these studios are damned if they do and damned if they don't. And it comes quite a lot of that with media, isn't it? It's a really positive thing often when sort of films. Generally, there's a huge sort of conversation about diversity, always with the Oscars and always with films coming out and actors not always being represented correctly in terms of ethnicity and all sorts of areas. But then I think sometimes, everyone's got an opinion, haven't they? That when a studio or in a film, or particularly that they then add diversity and be more inclusive, then sort of fingers are pointed like, you're only doing that because for whatever reason. It's hard, isn't it? I think they're going to be judged either way for doing it, and I think it's down to the viewer of watching it and thinking that was really cool, or
Mm.
it wasn't. It's personal opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Shane's confirmed that I assume we're talking about Fastos, but that he wasn't gay in that.
Yeah.
So again, that makes me question the reasoning for doing that.
It's unusual, isn't it? Yeah.
Again, I was chatting to Adam, who's been on Adam Wheeler, who's been on the show before the other day, and we were talking about it, and it's actually one of the things that frustrates him a lot with movies now, where they're trying to do it just for the sake of it, as I just said, almost as a bit of a tick box exercise. He said, because don't make the film, oh, you must see this film because, it's got the first gay superhero in it or whatever. I'm not saying that's their marketing approach, but they're making a hype towards it as such.
Or is that the press that make the hype towards it, I guess, is
possibly
the other thing, isn't it?
But an interesting thing, and again, I can't confirm whether or not this is fact or what Adam's telling me he believes happens, but in certain countries that are kind of, have got issues towards people who are gay or women or whatever, they'll cut them scenes out of the film. I mean, again, I can't confirm or deny whether that is actually true, but
I think China's quite restrictive, isn't they?
Yeah, but then why? Again, it seems weird if Disney are this multi-billion, dollar company, why they would do that. But
because they want money. That is purely what it's down to, isn't it? You think a lot of companies, I think Google were criticised greatly for launching products in China because they censored the internet basically, but they always with certain companies, yeah, exactly, as Shane said, they care about the money. If you've got a country or a part of the world with a huge population that will go out and watch your film and you've got to cut a couple of minutes out of that, thank you very much. They will do it without query whatsoever, won't they? Which is a shame, but it's they sell entertainment. Disney have never been particularly bothered about much else, have they?
Mark's made a good point here. The character I keep talking about, Fastos, he has a moment with his husband, which is quite a key moment in the film as well.
Yeah, and
they kiss, and he said, I think that was incredibly important, if only because it has upset and annoyed so many homophobic countries. I think he's right. It's if you're going to try and push these films through, and this is on the flip side of what I was just saying before about kind of why do they feel the need to change a character just to tick a box, but it is breaking down boundaries and barriers in other countries because they'll want to see this because of the fan base. That part there is almost saying, look, this is okay, and it is. Do you know what I mean? So it's very interesting. But going back to it, the film, I would recommend it, and I'm keen to hear other people's thoughts on it as well because I don't know. Again,
the reviews weren't good, were they? So it's interesting. On a not a Eternals specific thing, but I think it's something that's worth throwing into the mix because it's similar to what we've spoken about sort of not that long ago. Ridley Scott is promoting the movie at the moment, and you may have seen it. And Ridley Scott's history in terms of films is pretty good. Probably my favourite film in the world, Blade Runner. He was responsible for. But to quote Ridley Scott, he has said regarding superhero films, they're fucking boring as shit. Scott said, in his words, their scripts are not any fucking good. I think I've done 3 great scripted superhero movies. One would be Alien with Sigourney Weaver, one would be Gladiator, and one would be Blade Runner, he continued. See, I would argue that Blade Runner, that's not a superhero movie in the slightest.
No.
And Gladiator, could that be a superhero movie?
He's not. I mean, he is a hero. I mean,
drama, isn't it?
I just always associate superheroes with some form of power. Batman's slightly different because he's just got a lot of money, but he's still considered. He's portraying someone else, isn't he? It's someone who's as well that usually a superhero, you don't know who they are as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that might not be the case with
I
all.
think, sort of aliens and sort of Blade Runner, they're sci-fi films. I think they're completely different. Off My Shelves, Chris has said American Gangster is the most underrated Scott movie. I think that is a fantastic film, and that is one that was absolutely panned at the cinema, and I absolutely love it. I think it's such a amazing story and some really good acting in that film. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't
That's
actually.
well worth checking out.
Who's in it?
It's Denzel is playing what's his name? Frank Lucas, I think his name is. Basically, it's the story of a guy who was the helper of like a gangster, who's like his right hand man, a proper old school gangster in the 60s, and he dies, and he's a bit of a loss, and he has I think it's a cousin maybe who is in Vietnam at a particular time. And he realizes he can get tons of heroin into the country in the coffins of the dead Vietnam veterans, basically.
Oh, God.
And starts importing all of this heroin, and he can sell it really pure, really high quality, but incredibly cheap, and just builds this enormous empire doing it, essentially. But it's not, it doesn't glorify it in any way. You see the effects of what he's doing on the community, and you've seen the effects of what he's doing on his family as well. And Russell Crowe's in it too. He's the police and detective that's investigating him and trying to take him down. And you've got people like Idris Elba is in it.
Oh, wow.
You've got Josh Brolin in it. Loads of amazing actors. Yeah. Well worth watching.
And Chris has added to it. I watched it more than Blade Runner and Alien, and I adore those two. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll have to find a way of finding that film and watching it. Have you got a copy you can lend me, Matt?
Probably. I have indeed. Yeah. I've got it on Blu-ray actually, so it's
Nice.
a fully legal copy. Yeah.
We'll just throw that in the mix. My good friend Steve is here from S8E10. What's up, guys? Hope you're well. Congrats on 100 subs.
We're on 100 subs.
This is news to us, Steve.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. We've now got 100 subs.
Well, that's nice to see.
So thank you. On the day that we posted our 1,000th Instagram post. So yeah. Well, thanks to everyone who subscribed. I'm just going to quickly flip back here because I can see in the chat that this is quite frustrating, really. Like Mark and Mark's obviously looking this up. I can't imagine he just knows it all. But the film won't be released. This is the Eternals. Won't be released in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and then Shane asked whether China as well. And Mark said not releasing in China.
But
that's mad.
Up until very, very recently, I believe cinema was actually banned in Saudi Arabia. So it's
what
they're at very early days in terms of their.
They've got them 45-inch ones that you mentioned that they've got in chroma.
No, it was forbidden to watch films basically. Yeah.
Weird.
So yeah.
Hello to all the listeners from
Saudi
China.
listeners.
Saudi, sorry. Yeah.
Well, they're not allowed probably to watch this filth. So yeah,
exactly.
Me.
Well, that brings us on nicely while we're ripping films apart.
Before you put that, no, you can put that on. I was going to say, let's not move to the film I was going to talk about because I've got another film that I was going to talk about as well. As we're rambling about films. At the weekend, it'd be interesting to see what people's views or memories of it are. I've been working my way through sort of what are regarded as sort of classic films and older films, and I watched one that I hadn't watched for absolutely forever, which is The Breakfast Club. Have you seen The Breakfast Club?
No.
Previously, you need to watch it. Which is by John Hughes, which will link nicely to the next film I'll talk about as. The original of the next film I'll talk about was by John Hughes as well, which did absolutely amazing films. He and The Breakfast Club is basically 5 teenagers who are in detention on a Saturday morning for various reasons, and you find out the reasons throughout the film. But they're a mixture of characters. Now, there's a geeky guy, and there's a guy who's sort of like very rebellious and sort of smokes and stuff. And there's a sporty sort of jock-like character. There's a girl who's the very popular sort of person in the school, and then there's a girl who's a real sort of outcast. And it's basically it covers 8 hours of their life while they're in detention on that Saturday morning, and it's really it's mainly them talking, to be honest, but it's really real and gritty in terms of like that they naturally dislike each other because they're from these different social groups, but then they sort of learn how actually are similar and really sort of confess what's bad about in their lives. Like, you know, the rebellious guy talks about how his sort of father hates him and like physically abuses him and stuff like that. And it's quite heavy watching places, but it's just brilliant. It's another example.
Would you say there's I mean, I don't know what year this came out, but would you say there's a more
5? I would say.
Would you say there's a modern film that's a comparison to it, or is this quite unique?
Not in the slightest, because I think it's one of those films that I would worry about them trying to remake, because it is all they've tried to do with it is it's basically, you know, literally 5 kids in this library in detention, and they're just talking. It is really the format of the whole film. There's the odd bit when they're messing around and there's sort of like a bit of music or whatever, but otherwise it is pretty much sort of just them talking. I'd worry if they tried to remake it, it would be a bit too Hollywood in terms of them trying to spice it up a bit. But no, it's amazing. I thoroughly recommend anyone who hasn't watched it. But yeah, that's the comment we've just had there. I mean, that's the problem. The problem with it, and I think I'm glad, you know, we had that comment. Although I'm singing its praises, and I really do. I think it's an amazing film. It's got the issues that 80s films have, and looking back at them now with sort of the eyes of 2021, yeah, definitely completely undiverse in terms of the cast, as a lot of those films were. And also some of the language that they use is quite derogatory and not acceptable in our current time. There's a small amount of that. But yeah, otherwise it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, do check it out. But
then there was another one. Yeah.
Well, no, I was just going to say, now we move on to the one that I was going to talk about, which the original of this, the original Home Alone, was done by John Hughes, who is an amazing director and writer. However, I didn't watch the original one, so I've seen that far too many times. I watched Home Sweet Home Alone, I think it's called.
That's right, yeah.
Which the band... Leave It Alone is the takeaway from that. And can I just say, when I saw the trailer of this, and I think we probably saw the trailer at a similar sort of time,
yeah,
I thought it looked dreadful. Don't get me wrong. I didn't watch this film thinking, oh great, they've made another Home Alone. I've not been fulfilled by the however many they made already.
What one was this? The 5th, 6th? I don't even know what number this is.
I think it's 5 or 6, maybe. Someone will have to check that. But the first one's amazing. I remember seeing the first one at the cinema when I was young, and it's an incredible film, and it's still one I watch now, and it's timeless.
Yeah.
The second one even is all right. You know, that still holds its own. But then after that, it was just proper TV movie sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you had none of the same characters. It was
not
silly.
just that, and essentially it's the same story over and over. You know, they tried to break into the house, and he sets up a load of booby traps. Essentially,
the weird thing about this remake, I mean, there is so much wrong with this remake. I'm going to explain it all, but
do we need Matt's rants up?
No, not yet. No, I'll be quite calm in it. I'll just list them in chronological order. The first problem with it, in my eyes, is you've got like one of the appeals of the original Home Alone was Macaulay Culkin. You know, his character was so likable. Like, you could relate to him, and especially when you was younger, you'd think, oh, that was so cool. And he did the things like eating whatever he wanted and like trying on the aftershave. He did really like fun kid stuff, didn't he? With his newfound freedom and that. And there was an innocence to him, you know, he was scared of the guy who lived over the road and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This kid I feel really bad talking about like child actors like that, but he's so unlikable. Like, from the moment he is on that screen, he is unlikable. And you just think you're just this arrogant little brat. And that's all it is, you know, really. As soon as he's on screen, so yeah, I believe so. Well, he's got an English accent, but you know, I'm assuming he's originally English. I've never seen him in anything else, but so that's really weird. You know, you've got the main character that really should be the one you're rooting for, but you don't really like him. And the other weird thing about it is the story. Like, in the original, he's accidentally left at home. There are the local sort of burglaries going on by the wet bandits. They're trying to sort of, you know, get in the house and sort of rob him in that. However, this one, the plot is the unlikable little boy and his mum are driving home, and he needs a wee, but there's nowhere to stop to go for a wee. So the mum sees there's a house for sale, and they're having an open house. So she takes him in there, pretending they're interested in the house so he can go to the toilet. Whilst he's there, he starts talking to the owner of the house, who's got this box of dollies that were his mum's, and they're hideous looking, like creepy looking things. And he's a little bit rude to the man, basically. And they have a sort of a to and fro, and the mum takes him away. But then the mum says to the guy, oh, they're blah, blah, blah dolls. They're worth loads of money, for example. And the guy's like, oh, wow, you know, I didn't know that. And then the guy thinks that when he checks on the dolls later, he thinks this little boy has stolen one of these dolls.
Right.
So he then goes to the house to try and get the doll back. And he's there when they're all leaving and whatever, and sees where they hide the keys and sees what the alarm code is, and then sort of goes back later and they try and break in the house and that. And it's this constant thing of, he thinks the boy's got the doll. So, and him and his wife are selling their house because they need the money, and they can sell this doll for 200 grand. So they want to get the doll back. And it's such an odd story. Like, even me saying this now, I'm thinking,
I'm lost.
Why would I want to watch a film about this? It's just so odd. Like, the story is just so bizarre. Yeah. But no, it's...
Clean B is his mum, isn't?
Yeah, she is. Well, she's hardly in it. I mean, she's sort of, you know, featured as a character, but she leaves him. Basically, the boy, very similar to like the original film, the boy hates the fact his family's like in the house, so goes downstairs and sits in the car and falls asleep, and then they all leave without him. But there's some really weird bits. Like, if you remember in the first one, I think his uncle maybe was a bit grumpy, and he was an older guy, and like some of his like nephews or whatever were a bit sort of slightly mean or whatever. But in this one, like the uncle, I think it is, trying to get the kids out of the house, and he's shouting at them, if you don't get in the house, I'm going to shave your heads. You know, that's your punishment. And this sort of stuff. You think it's
random.
It's just weird. Absolutely weird. But yeah, it's not a film. The violence in it is brutal as well. Like, he shoots snooker balls into like the guy's face.
That's it. And so the burglars are the guy is quite well known.
I did look up his name. He is Rob Delaney.
Rob Delaney.
I've seen him in bits and pieces.
He's a comedian. He's been in loads of things. He wasn't he in Daredevil? He was one of the guys in the. I'm sure he's one of the people that applies to be in the kind of X-Files or whatever.
I think also
what?
Deadpool or Daredevil?
I think he was in Deadpool.
Yeah, you
That's what I
said
said, didn't I?
Daredevil. You said
Yeah,
Daredevil.
same thing.
Same thing.
I'm half asleep. But the girl in it was actually in the American Office,
Oh, right.
and she was hilarious in that. So
Yeah.
were at least the burglars, or did you have more sympathy for these burglars because of what you said about the boy?
No, because it was just weird that they were burglars in the first place, because it's like a husband and wife that are a bit short on money, but they're going to such lengths to break into this house. And you just think, why would you even do that? Like, why wouldn't you just knock on the door and say, I think that kid's got my doll? But no, instead you're going to smash the house up and you're going to break in and you're going to do all these things. It just makes no sense whatsoever. It's just weird. And there's the bit to try and give it slight integrity, because apparently, like, reading up about it, and they tried to get Macaulay Culkin in it and said he was going to make a cameo, and he was like, absolutely not, I'm not making a cameo in this. So they've got one of I think he was the bigger boy, who was a bit of a meathead in the first one, who plays a security guard he plays a policeman in this film.
Right.
And it's ridiculous. It's like zooms in
And
on
that's
his
it.
badge, and it says McAllister, which is like the Macaulay Kevin McAllister in the first one. And I'm sure they expected the audience to go, oh. And there's a bit where he sees them break in, and then he lets the husband and wife off because he believes they own that house. And then he gets a call saying, oh, we've had a call about a break-in. And he says, oh, no, it's that date again. My cousin Kevin always rings me up and says on this date that the house is being broken into. And he's just like, whatever.
A little annoying
Buzz.
nod.
That's it. In the character's Buzz. That's the name of the character, I think. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Just don't watch it unless you really have nothing better to do, because it's an awful film. It is truly awful film. And I don't know why they did it at all.
Who did you watch it with?
I watched it with my youngest, who's 8. He thought it looked bad as well before we started watching it. He went, oh, but that looks really bad. I'm like, yeah, it looks really bad, but let's watch it. Yeah. And he was just completely unamused as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there was the odd
That's when you know.
The odd bit of violence that we laughed at. He puts pins in the end of Nerf bullets. So, like, at one point, the lady's got all these like Nerf bullets hanging out of her face with pins.
I mean, it's quite sadistic then.
The only bit we did enjoy, which we thought was quite a clever thing, when it ended, and when Rob Delaney's character gets knocked out when he shoots him in the face with these snooker balls. But while he's asleep, he puts a VR mask on him. So he wakes up and he thinks he's in this sort of desert sort of landscape and doesn't know where he is.
That sounds
so that's quite a funny bit. That was quite a clever use of that. But shocking.
Other than that, score out of 10?
1 I would give it. Apparently on Rotten Tomatoes, is it Rotten Tomatoes? Maybe it's got 3.9 out of 10.
Wow.
So I think everyone hates it, not just me. So yeah, that's your Christmas film to look forward to, everyone.
Yeah. Actually, there was a Christmas film. Did we talk about that last week?
8-Bit Christmas.
8-Bit Christmas.
The one that looks good, doesn't it? That does look entertaining.
Yeah. I'm not sure of any other Christmas films that are coming out. Well, I know there's ones at the cinema because we talked about them a few episodes ago, but actual Christmas themed films, that one looks...
Hawkeye, that is going to be out soon.
24th November?
That's Christmassy themed, isn't it, according to the trailer?
It's set at Christmas time by the looks of it. Are you going to watch that?
Probably. But again, it's not...
Probably.
I liked the trailer. I thought looked quite good, so I will watch it. I've watched the other series that Disney Plus have put out. It looks all right.
Speaking of trailers, the next Spider-Man No Way Home trailer comes out at approximately 1:30 in the morning our time, I believe.
Wow.
I won't wait up for it, to be honest, unless my youngest wakes up at that time.
Conveniently, and then you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen any spoilers about it. So good question there. Sorry, just to change, going back. Shane, best Christmas movie ever? I agree. Die Hard.
Die Hard. It is a very good film. Yeah.
Is it a Christmas movie though?
But it's set in Christmas, isn't it? So that's really all it takes to be a Christmas movie, doesn't it? To be set at that time of year, and it is. So, yeah.
A close
doesn't
second
make
would
you
have
feel.
to be.
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it doesn't make you feel festive, though. I would say,
Well, that's it.
Being
that's why I was
pursued
say...
by terrorists in a tower block isn't normally what makes you feel festive.
Yeah, exactly. Mine would have to be Elf's probably a bit obvious. Yes, Chris. He's just stole it right off my tip of my tongue. The Muppets Christmas. Yeah, I absolutely love that film. Michael Caine as Scrooge.
Yeah, it's very good.
Kermit's in it. The real Kermit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would say Home Alone probably for me. I think that's a great film. Or the one growing up I absolutely loved was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That was the one that always sort of entertained me.
Yeah, that was a great film. So while we're talking about things that we've just absolutely pied,
didn't go to plan. Yeah,
Home Alone. Yeah, things that haven't also gone to plan. Changing from movies for the final part of this show. GTA, which has officially been ranked lower or rated lower than eFootball, which I've played, and that's rubbish. But visually, I mean, I haven't played this remastered, whatever it's the definitive edition. That's why we've changed it to what it should be called. I mean, I imagine there'll be updates, but again, this feels like it was only mentioned a few weeks ago, and now I didn't even realise it was out this soon.
Did you? Yeah. Well, it was. I knew it was a November date it was coming out, but the amazing thing with this is watching the trailer, and it is one of those big nostalgia things. If anyone has been into gaming, and it's very likely that in the last sort of 20 years, it's likely that in GTA in some form would have sort of crossed their path. And I remember the first time I ever played GTA 3 around my friend Phil's house on his PS2, it blew my mind. I could drive around, I could do whatever I wanted in this open world. And then having Vice City was incredible. And then playing, San Andreas was incredible. It looked amazing. But how can a games company take 3 games that were absolutely lauded as amazing things that, changed the face of gaming, and are 20 years old, and make them worse? And that is exactly what they've did with these 3 titles.
Yeah, exactly. When you think there'll be a certain, we were talking about the years that these films came out.
Games.
2000. Games.
James is very tired.
4 a.m. guys. 4 a.m. I woke up this morning. 2000.
I think wasn't it 2001, 2003, and then 2006, maybe
something like that. So there's going to be a generation of kids that didn't play these games, and now they've been remastered, and their parents or older siblings or whatever will be saying to them, "These games are incredible. You need to play them."
Ever, yeah.
And then you feel absolutely. I mean, I've seen all the screenshots that people have been posting on Twitter and stuff. It's terrible.
Exactly. It's not even the case that they've made it slightly bad. Like some of the thing that stands out the most is some of the characters, and which I was reading like a more technical thing, and apparently it's because they used an old game engine called Renderware for these particular games, which isn't relevant for like newer consoles and that. And they put it over to Unreal Engine, which is the newer thing that a lot of games are based on now. And it has this sort of smoothing effect. And you've got some of the characters that they've got like the head of a toddler, haven't they? Almost that it's just like smoothed them out completely, and they look completely unrecognizable. And the video I saw on Twitter the other day, and there's the rain is just completely off, and if it rains, it's so intense you can barely play the game because you can't see anything. But there's this bit where CJ, it's in San Andreas, the screenshot I saw. You're riding along the side of a lake. There's rain on the land, but there's no rain in the lake. Like you can see literally how the rain stops. And you just think, what? There's no excuse.
Well,
for
and
this.
that Chris has mentioned from Off My Shelves. It's inexcusable for a company the size of Rockstar, and that's what I was just thinking. Like, surely these games get tested beforehand.
Yeah. The weird thing with this as well, which shows, in a way, I think shows the lack of care that they put into it, is they've discovered on the PC version, and I don't know, people of a certain age of gaming may remember this. San Andreas had a thing which they called hot coffee in it, which basically there were levels that you could do with a girlfriend, and if you got to a certain point in the game that they released, it insinuated if you had a successful date or a few successful dates, you slept together. And it was just, it panned out to the house, and there was sort of like a couple of suggestive noises and that. But what people discovered at the time was there was actually a game in it. And when they first programmed the game, there was basically you could have sex, and it was a mini game that you could do it. And it caused a huge amount of controversy when it came out, because the code was still in it. That would have completely wrecked the rating that game got at the time. And I think they were taken to court and they lost a load of money over it. It was discovered in these remastered editions, they've left the hot coffee code in there. It's still in the PC version of it. So you just think, what were you doing with that? That's happened, and you're still leaving it in there. And apparently all the comments are still in there in the code, like the programmers slagging each other off and that. It's just
A mess.
An absolute mess.
Well, and again, like Shane says here, the problem with these companies now is they just want to get the games out the door, don't they?
Yeah. Digital updates, they can ship a broken product. but with a new game, fair enough. But with a game that already works,
and you've already gone through all the cleaning of it phase as such. Although, was there the updates as much on them games? I don't think that there probably wouldn't have been. Would there?
Not at all. No, there wouldn't have been.
But they would have known where the red flags were. I
think when the hot coffee stuff and that, literally they had to ship new products, so it would be like new game disc that they'd have to put out for that. And yeah, I mean, as Mark's just said, Cyberpunk all over again. You would have thought, again, inexcusable for a company as big as Rockstar, that their GTA releases earn billions, like absolute fortune that they make from these games. They should know how to release a game properly. And especially I've seen Cyberpunk coming out. It's just madness, isn't it? But the thing that as well that I don't know cheapens their credibility even more, I think, is that like working up to this release, they've been taking down all of these mods that users have created. And there have been, because they're old games, a lot of people, like amateur developers and that, have put a lot of work into, and communities put a lot of work into getting these old titles and making them look better. So they're rendered better, and the shading's better, and they look like better games. And they were able to do it far better than Rockstar has actually done. But because Rockstar was releasing this game, they've shut all these communities down, and they've started using their power to actually remove these things from the internet. So, they've thrown their corporate weight around and then released an inferior product that the fans have done. It's just,
that's mad, isn't it?
crazy.
It's mad.
It's a shame, especially because Rockstar has always had that reputation of being a bit punk rock. You know, they've been doing cool games for everyone, but
Well, and we should end that on a positive note because you were back into one of your favourite Rockstar games,
which still hasn't arrived yet. I ordered it on Saturday, which is the greatest game ever to be released by Rockstar, or it sort of. Rockstar Table Tennis, which if anyone owns a modern, or not even a modern, if anyone owns an Xbox 360 or above, get Rockstar Table Tennis. I picked it up for that and LA Noire, which is another highly rated Rockstar game that I've never played. 2 for a $5. Music Magpie. What more do you want out of life?
Yeah.
So yeah,
we should get a little Music Magpie logo just to pop up there. Maybe there. They'll sponsor us or something. I don't know if they're listening. We'll tag them. It's fine.
Exactly. They'll love it.
They will absolutely love it.
Yeah. So
wow.
It's
Time
the
has
end.
come. Oh God. I'm so happy I'm going to bed. No, well, thank you to everyone. Again, it's much like last week. The chat has been crazy
alive
again. Yeah, live and well, which I like. And it's
Really
been
good.
nice to kind of start incorporating these live shows into our series.
Yeah.
When we come back for season 9, hopefully we'll do a few more, and we'll try and get some of you guys who were watching here today. We'd love to get you back on. Mark was great on last week's show, and we'd love to have more of you guys join us. So,
and can I say that Mark always brings the viewers?
He does.
Historically, every time we've had Mark on, well, no, Mark's in most episodes in the vein of like question mark. When Mark is physically on the show, viewers go crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
sex sells.
It does.
That's it.
It's just his raw manliness.
Let's just hope that Mark never starts his own podcast. Otherwise, we're all doomed.
It'll ruin us. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for everyone who's supported us and followed us over the last series. We're really grateful for all the comments and all the likes and sharing our show and things like that. It really helps us out, and again, all the subscribers. I think that it's grown massively this series, and that's down to everyone who's listening or watching. So we will be back. We'll keep you posted.
Look out
through
for
the
the Christmas
socials.
special.
Yeah, we'll definitely dress up. I've got a hat somewhere. Yeah, it'll be a laugh. You will be able to see one half of Twim soon, because I'm going to be on the next episode of Dawn of Comics quiz. It's recording this weekend, so that'll be out in a couple of weeks' time, I imagine. So keep an eye out for that. We'll share that when it comes out. But yeah, watch this space. We'll be cropping up here and there, but we will keep you posted. So yeah, until next time, see you later. See you soon. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. Yeah, and you can also follow us on all social media. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.